A Foot Locker just went dark on a corner that's had one for 20 years. A GameStop shut its doors with a "everything must go" sign still taped to the window 3 weeks later. And somewhere in a mall you used to visit every weekend, half the storefronts are covered in paper. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. In today's video, we're counting down 12 major retail chains that could be gone sooner than anyone expects. These aren't obscure names nobody remembers. These are stores you've walked into, stores your parents shopped at, stores that are still open right now, but quietly running out of time. Number 12. Foot Locker. Someone walks in looking for a specific sneaker release. The employee checks the system, then checks again, then apologizes. It's not in stock. It won't be in stock. But it's sitting right there on an app, ready to ship tomorrow. That small moment happens constantly inside Foot Locker stores. And it says everything about the problem this brand is facing. Foot Locker built its name on being the place sneakerheads lined up outside of, sometimes overnight, just to be first. For years, that was the whole identity. Not the cheapest option, not the most convenient option, but the place where the culture lived. Today, that culture has moved somewhere else. Nike, one of Foot Locker's biggest suppliers, has spent the past several years pushing harder into direct-to-consumer sales, cutting out the middleman entirely. Other sneaker brands have followed the same playbook. Add in resale apps and instant online drops, and the reason to physically walk into a Foot Locker keeps shrinking. The company has already announced it's closing hundreds of underperforming stores as it restructures. What makes this one sting is that Foot Locker wasn't just a retailer. For an entire generation, it was where identity got built one box at a time. And when that kind of emotional connection starts fading, the store usually isn't far behind. Number 11. Office Depot. A parent walks in during the last week of August needing a specific list of school supplies. Half the aisle is picked over, the other half never got restocked. They leave with 3 items checked off a list of 12. Office Depot, now operating under one merged company with OfficeMax, used to be the default answer for anything office or school related. Printer ink, binders, a new desk chair, a last-minute presentation printed at midnight. It didn't need to be exciting, it just needed to be there. But 2 things happened at once. Remote work reduced the need for constant office supply runs, and Amazon made their mean your doorstep instead of a strip mall 10 minutes away. The company has closed hundreds of stores over the past several years, and more closures continue to be announced as leadership tries to shrink its way back to profitability. What's easy to miss is that this isn't a story about supplies disappearing. People still need pens, still need paper, still need a working printer. What's disappearing is the reason to drive somewhere for them. And once a store stops being the fastest option, it stops being the first option, too. Number 10. GameStop. A kid walks up to the counter holding a game he's been saving up for. The cashier processes it. Then, almost automatically offers a trade-in on his old console. He shakes his head. He already sold it online for more, days ago, in 10 minutes from his couch. That single interaction is the entire GameStop problem in miniature. This chain built an empire on physical discs and in-store trade-ins, becoming the place millions of gamers walked into on release day. But gaming has moved almost entirely digital. Downloads happen instantly. Trade-ins happen through apps that pay more than store credit ever did. GameStop has closed thousands of stores over the last several years, shrinking from a company with well over 6,000 locations down to a fraction of that number. The strange part is that GameStop isn't broke. It's sitting on cash, thanks to a wave of investor attention a few years back. But cash in the bank doesn't fix a business model the industry has already moved past. And that's the quiet danger here. A company can survive financially while the actual reason it exists keeps disappearing in the background. Number 9. Forever 21. A teenager scrolls through a shopping app, taps twice, and a trendy top is on its way for less than the price of parking at the mall. She never even considers walking into a store. Forever 21 used to be the undisputed king of fast fashion, packed wall to wall with new arrivals every single week, prices low enough that buying 5 things felt like buying 1. But the brand that helped invent ultra-fast fashion got outpaced by companies built to be even faster and even cheaper, shipping directly from factories overseas with no physical stores to maintain at all. Forever 21 already filed for bankruptcy once, closing hundreds of locations and shrinking its footprint dramatically. The ownership group has kept a smaller version alive, but the writing on the wall is hard to ignore. The irony here is brutal. Forever 21 didn't lose because people stopped wanting cheap, trendy clothes. It lost because the entire category it helped create evolved past the need for a physical store at all. Sometimes a company doesn't get killed by a competitor. It gets killed by the exact trend it started. Number 8. Express. A shopper walks past the same rack of blazers for the third weekend in a row. Nothing's changed. Nothing feels new. Eventually, she stops walking past that store entirely. Express spent decades as the place young professionals went for their first grown-up work outfit. Sharp, trendy, a little bit aspirational. But the balance between trendy and timeless got harder to strike as fashion cycles sped up and remote work quietly killed the demand for business casual altogether. Express filed for bankruptcy, closed a large chunk of its stores, and was ultimately sold off in a deal designed to keep only the strongest locations alive. What makes this one different is that Express didn't get squeezed by convenience the way a lot of stores on this list did. It got squeezed by relevance. The clothes were still fine, the prices were still fair. What disappeared was the moment in someone's life that used to require walking in there in the first place. And a store built around a specific life stage struggles badly when that life stage itself starts to change. Number 7. Victoria's Secret. A woman used to plan an entire trip around the semi-annual sale, arriving early, leaving with bags. Now she orders her usual size online in 90 seconds and never thinks about the mall at all. Victoria's Secret once dominated an entire category so completely that its brand and its product were basically the same word. Pink bags, runway shows, a name everyone recognized instantly. But the brand held on to one image for too long, while an entire wave of newer, more inclusive competitors built loyal followings by listening to what customers were actually asking for. Victoria's Secret has spent recent years closing underperforming stores and trying to rebuild its identity from the ground up. But trust, once lost, doesn't rebuild on the same timeline stores need to stay open. What's worth sitting with is that this brand didn't fail because the category disappeared. People still buy the same products. They just stopped buying them from a brand that felt stuck in a different decade. And a name that used to mean everything can start meaning nothing almost overnight. Number 6. CVs. Someone walks in for a routine prescription pickup, and the pharmacist behind the counter looks exhausted, understaffed, apologizing for a wait that keeps getting longer every visit. CVs built one of the largest pharmacy networks in the country, becoming the default corner stop for millions of people, juggling prescriptions, basic groceries, and everyday essentials. But running that many locations profitably has gotten brutally difficult. Reimbursement rates from insurance companies have been squeezed for years, front-of-store retail sales have slipped as shoppers move online, and pharmacy staffing shortages have made the in-store experience worse at the exact moment competitors got better. CVs has confirmed plans to close hundreds of stores as part of a multi-year restructuring effort. The part that should worry people most is the same part that made Rite Aid's decline so painful. This isn't a store people choose to visit for fun. It's a store people depend on for medication they can't go without. When a pharmacy chain this size starts shrinking, the impact isn't measured in lost sales. It's measured in how far someone now has to drive to get what they need to stay healthy. Number 5. Conn's Home Plus. A family walks in looking for a new washer and dryer, financing already approved, ready to buy that day. They compare 2 models, ask a few questions, then quietly pull out a phone and check the price somewhere else. It's 15% lower, with free delivery included. Conn's built its business around furniture, appliances, and electronics sold with in-house financing, aimed directly at customers who might not qualify for credit elsewhere. For years, that niche worked. But rising interest rates made financing more expensive to offer. Big box competitors expanded their own appliance sections aggressively, and online retailers started matching delivery speeds that used to be Conn's biggest advantage. Conn's filed for bankruptcy and began liquidating stores across its entire footprint. What makes this one worth noting is how fast it happened. There was no decade-long decline here, no slow fade anyone could see coming from a distance. A company built on financing collapsed almost overnight once financing itself became too expensive to offer. Sometimes the warning signs aren't slow at all. Sometimes they show up right before the end. Number 4. Nordstrom. A shopper spends 20 minutes with a personal stylist, tries on 6 outfits, thanks the associate warmly, and leaves without buying anything, planning to order the same pieces online during the next sale. Nordstrom built its entire reputation on service, the kind of in-store experience no algorithm could replicate. Personal shoppers, generous return policies, a level of care that made people feel like the price tag was justified. But that reputation, expensive to maintain, is exactly what's being tested now. Rising costs, a struggling downtown flagship market, and shoppers who've gotten used to research online, buy anywhere habits have all chipped away at Nordstrom's advantage. The company has closed a number of stores, including some long-standing flagship locations, and the family that built the brand has explored taking it private entirely. What's different about Nordstrom is that its problem isn't price, and it isn't relevance. It's that the very thing people loved most about shopping there, personal service, is expensive to deliver and increasingly easy to skip. And when a competitive advantage costs more to keep than it earns back, even a beloved brand starts making painful cuts. Number 3. Gap. A shopper walks through a Gap store and struggles to name a single item that feels different from what was on the shelves 5 years ago. Gap wants to find an entire era of American casual wear, khakis, hoodies, the kind of clothes that felt like a cultural default rather than a trend. But somewhere along the way, the brand stopped feeling essential. Fast fashion undercutted on speed and price. Trend-driven brands undercutted on relevance. Gap tried logo redesigns, celebrity collaborations, and repeated rebrand attempts, and none of it fully stuck. The company has closed hundreds of stores across its portfolio over the past several years, consolidating locations and shrinking its physical footprint even as it tries to stabilize online. The uncomfortable truth here is that Gap isn't struggling because its clothes are bad. It's struggling because being reliable stopped being enough. In a retail world built on constant reinvention, a brand that once sold always the same, always dependable, now has to fight for a reason to exist at all. And that's a much harder problem to solve than a bad quarter. Number 2. Petco. Someone walks in for a bag of dog food they've bought at the same store for years, only to find the price has crept up again, just enough to make the subscription box waiting at home start looking like the smarter option. Petco built a loyal following by combining pet supplies with in-store vet clinics, grooming services, and adoption events, positioning itself as more than just a shelf of food and toys. But subscription services now deliver that same bag of food on a schedule, often cheaper, without anyone having to leave the house. Big box retailers added their own pet aisles. Specialty online retailers undercut prices on nearly everything else. Petco has been closing underperforming locations and leaning harder into services that can't be easily replicated online. But services alone haven't been enough to offset the slow bleed of lost product sales. The lesson inside Petco's struggle is one that applies far beyond pet stores. Convenience used to mean having a location nearby. Now convenience means never having to leave at all. And any retailer still competing on proximity alone is competing in a race that's already been decided. Number 1. Kmart. A man in his 60s tells a story about buying his first bike at Kmart on a Saturday morning with his dad. He pulls out his phone, searches for the nearest location, and finds there's exactly one left in the entire continental United States. Not one near him. One, period, in the whole country. That's not decline. That's the final chapter of a story that's been unfolding for over a decade. Kmart was once one of the largest retailers on earth, with well over 2,000 stores blanketing the country, a genuine rival to Walmart before Walmart pulled ahead for good. But a string of missed decisions, a merger with Sears that dragged both companies down together, and a failure to modernize while competitors reinvented themselves left Kmart hollowed out piece by piece, year after year, until almost nothing remained. What makes Kmart the most important entry on this entire list isn't the size of what's left. It's the size of what used to be there. This wasn't a niche brand or a regional chain. This was a company that used to sit at the center of American shopping, the same way Walmart does today, and it still nearly vanished completely. That single detail should change how anyone looks at every other name on this list, because if it can happen to a company that big, no store, no matter how familiar it feels right now, is guaranteed to stay open forever. Every one of these 12 stories follows the same quiet pattern. Nothing collapses overnight. A store gets a little slower, a little less convenient, a little less necessary, and most people don't notice until the day they drive past, and the building is simply empty. The stores on this list aren't disappearing because people stopped needing what they sell. They're disappearing because the way people get those things has changed faster than the stores could keep up. So now I want to hear from you. Which one of these 12 surprised you the most? And is there a store from this list, or one we didn't mention, that's already disappeared from your neighborhood? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one, and honestly, a lot of these video ideas start right there in the comment section. Thanks for sticking around until the end. I'll see you in the next one.